Hello everyone and welcome back to one of our cybersecurity videos. My name is Mina and today I'm going to talk about how to build up VLAN and trunk connection between two switches. So in the real environment, let me show you this. So as you can see, if you have in your environment a router, two switches, a few computers in your real environment, and then these computers belong to different departments. So like these two computers belong to HR department, these two computers belong to admin department, and this computer belong to IT department. The idea here is if you just connect everything to the switches without any configuration, all of them will see each other and all of them will get an IP address of the same network. But in this environment, in this lab that I'm going to configure for you, I will teach you how to configure different departments, different VLANs on each of the switch, and each VLAN will take a different subnet network address, and then this computer will get separate IP addresses that they don't communicate with each other, but they communicate only with the computers inside each department. So these computers will communicate with each other. These computers should communicate with each other, but they cannot communicate with any other computers. So the admin computer cannot see the IT computer or the HR computer. The HR computer cannot see the IT computer or the admin computer, and so on. So you divide your network into subnets, and each subnet has a few computers inside, and this is how you secure your network and how to separate each department from each other. Alright, so this is the simple configuration today. I have written all the notes here, so I'm going to show you how to configure VLANs and trunk connections, how two switches communicate with each other. I've talked about this, how we configure the VLANs, how the computers will be separated from each other. They will only communicate with the ones with each VLAN, and the design will have two switches, one router, 5 computers, and this is the table of the VLAN itself. So we'll have HR department, admin department, and IT department, and then there is a native VLAN which will be the communication between the two switches, or the native on trunk. This is the trunk connection configuration, and what each one will get as an IP address and network, subnet mask, default gateway, and so on. Which one will connect to each port. We'll use just simple port connections, and we will configure each port on the switches and the router, and then later on you will see all the commands that will do this. What I'm going to say here will apply to most of your environments, and the code itself is for Cisco routers and switches. If you have different models, the code itself might change a little bit. You'll have to look into what is the equivalent code for the other brands, but the idea is the same on how to build up or how to configure the network like this. It's the same. And again, everything will be on our home page or website. Let me just get you this, so you can see it, get to use this website. So our website, my website is called cybersecureworld.net. You will find everything on this one. This video will fall under cybersecurity tools, and you will find it here. So I've written here all the tools that I've explained before on other videos. Some of them still don't have videos yet, but at least this one is what I'm going to talk about today in this video. and it's called VLAN configuration and trunking. If you can't find it, you can just go to the search bar on top and just type VLAN, and you will find all the ports talking about VLANs, and you can just click, and everything I'm explaining in this video will be written here, so you can copy paste and follow up with code, and you can copy paste it in your environment later on. Alright, now let's jump in to the environment. So I will just create a new one. So we need a router, so I will just use this one, and then we need a switch. I'm going to network devices, and this router I'm going to jump to switch. I'm going to use this one. We have 2 switches, and then computers, we need 5 computers. I'll just put 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5. So let me rename everything here. So I will call this one R1. So these are just names. I haven't configured anything yet. This is just to see it on the screen here. We'll configure each one later on. So I will call this one switch 2. So this one will be, let me go back to my notes. So this one will be called HR1, and next one is HR2. Next one is admin1, and the next one is admin2, and IT1. Now I have 5 computers, 2 switches, 1 router. Let me just move it a little bit so you can see it. Alright, now let's do the connection. So I will just connect this one here. So this one I need it to Giga Ethernet number 0. And this one I will connect it to the port number 24 on the switch. So these switches are 24 ports and 2 Giga Ethernet. So I will just connect this one to port 24. Then HR1 will connect here to Ethernet 1. This one will connect to Ethernet 2. And then this one will connect to Ethernet 3, and this one will connect here. I will just connect it to number 4 for simplicity, and I will connect this one on the switch to port number 5. Last, I'm going to connect this one to this one as a trunk. So this one will be Giga Ethernet 0/1, and on the port here the same Giga Ethernet 0/1. So now we have the communication. We have all the cables going in and out from the computers to the switches, and the router to the switch. I don't need to connect the router to switch 2 because it's connected already to switch 1. Now let's start with the configuration with each one. We'll start with switch 1. So let me just first move this one to the right, and let me show you this window that I'm connecting now. Alright, so I'm going to the CLI of switch 1. Let me just maybe make it closer to each other a little bit. So I'll just do this, and the router will be this way, so you can see both of windows when it's open. Now let's get back to the other window again. So you can see it now. All right. Okay, let me go back to the notes. I can follow up with the commands I'm showing you. Now, we are configuring switch 1. So I will say enable configure terminal, and then we'll name it first. So we'll say host name, this is switch 1. As you can see, the default name was switch, and now it's SW1. Now we'll configure VLAN. So VLAN 20, I will name it HR. VLAN 40, I will name it admin. And now VLAN 50 will be name native VLAN. So this is VLAN 50 will be used to the connection of the trunk between the two switches. There will be no computers connected to VLAN 5. And now the last one I'm configuring is VLAN 80, which I will name it IT. Now exit. What I'm doing right now is creating different VLANs, which on the switch 1, which will connect later on to different PCs. So these two PCs will connect to VLAN 1, HR1 and HR2. Admin will connect to VLAN 2, which is admin 1 and admin 2, and IT will connect to VLAN 3. So the idea here is each department will have its own IP address and cannot communicate with other departments. Okay, so let's continue with code. Now, as you can see, HR1 and HR2 are connected to port 1 and port 2 on the switch. So I need now to configure these two ports to tell the switch these two ports will be this VLAN. So I will just say interface, and instead of going to configure each port by itself, I will just use a range because they are the same configuration for both of them. I will say port 0/1 to number 2. So the configuration I'm doing right now will be applied on port number 1 and port number 2 on the switch. Alright, so I will say switch port mode access, and this access will be VLAN 20. With the switches, you can just type the first two letters of the word and then press tab on the keyboard. It will continue the word itself by itself. So this is how I'm doing this right now. Now I'm gonna use a command called spanning tree, and I will say port fast. This is telling the switch this port is connected to a computer and not connected to a switch. It will save time in the communication, because once two switches are connected to each other, the ports take some time to discover all the connected devices on both switches. But in this case, this port is connected to a computer. There is no need to do the discovering process, which takes some time. So I'm just telling the switch, do not do this discovery. This is just a computer connected to the socket itself. And then and this error you're seeing, not error, this is alert you are getting. Say if you are using spanning tree port fast, if you connect a switch to this port, it will create a problem. It will create a loop and it will not discover each other. So that's the error you are getting, or the note you are getting right now. I finished configuring the first two ports now, or two interfaces. The interface number 3 is VLAN 40, so I will just say switch port mode access, and the access is VLAN 40, and also this is a computer, so I don't need the discovery process, so I'll just say spanning 3 port fast, and I'll exit this one. So I've finished port number 3. So number 1, number 2, number 3, and we still have the connection to the other switch, which is Giga Ethernet 0/1. So for the interface Giga Ethernet 0/1, I will say switch mode trunk in this case. So this is a trunk, and the native VLAN of the trunk is VLAN 50. This is the communication between the two switches. And now I'm telling the switch or the trunk connection to allow all VLANs 40, 50, and 80. So it's telling the trunk, take all the traffic going from these VLANs 40, 50, 80 going to the second switch. So it will carry all the traffic from this port to the other port. And again, we are getting errors because the other one is not configured yet. It's telling it's not working. But the last command is no shutdown, which is turn it on and then exit. So I've configured now the port connected to the switch 2. The last one is the port connected to the router. So the interface itself, which is interface number 24. So I will just say interface 0/24. This is mode trunk also, and the trunk native VLAN is 50. Switch port trunk allow all VLANs, which is 20, 40, 50, and 80. No shutdown, which means turn it on. I'll exit. Now I finished all the configuration on switch 1, so I will type end and then WR, which is write memory. It will write all the configuration to the configuration file on the switch itself. Now we need to configure switch number 2, so I will close this one for now, and let me use the second window. So as you can see, I'm on switch number 2 right now, and we'll go to its configuration. Let me get back my notes. And also, as you can see on the packet tracer, there is a green triangle on switch 1, but there is an orange circle on switch 2, which means the connection is not configured yet. There is some error. And also, as you can see, from the router 1 to switch 1, there is red triangles, which means also there is no configuration yet, there is no connections, and you need to fix that. So I will go back to my notes to switch 2. So what I'm going to do right now, enable configure terminal, and then we'll rename it first. Host name is W2, and as you can see now the name has switched to, or renamed to switch 2. Now on this one, I will say VLAN 40 name admin, VLAN 50 name native VLAN, and you have to be careful, it has to be the same name on the other switch, same letter, same capital and small letters. If you did something wrong, they will not communicate with each other if you're renaming wrong. And then VLAN 80 we'll name it IT. Exit. Finished all the configuration now, all the naming of the VLANs. Now we need to configure the interfaces. So the computer now is connected to interface number 4 on this one. So I will just say switch port mode access, and the access is VLAN 40, because this is the admin 2 and admin 1 are connected to VLAN 40. And then I will just say spanning tree port fast, because this is a computer, there is no switch connected to this one. And now the next interface, which is number 5, and switch port mode access, and the access is VLAN 80, and spanning tree port fast, because it's a computer, not a switch. So I've configured port number 4, port number 5. Now the last port is the Giga Ethernet trunk connection. So this is the interface Giga Ethernet 0/1. Switch mode is trunk, because it's a trunk connection. Switch mode trunk. Native VLAN is 50. And also I'm telling switch port trunk allow the traffic from same VLANs I've configured on switch 1, which is 40, 50 and 80. And then I will say no shutdown, exit, and I finished configuration on this one. So I will type end and WR to write all the configuration to the configuration memory, to the configuration file on the memory. Alright, now I finished with this one. I need to configure now router number 1. Let me get you the window so you can see it with me. Alright. We go to the CLI, which is the command prompt of the router. So it's telling me it's a new router. Would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? So I will just say no, and I will do it by myself. So I will search, say enable configure terminal, and then we'll rename it to R1, which is router 1. Then the interface Giga Ethernet 0/0, which is connected to switch 1. I will just say no shutdown, which means turn it on. As you can see, the triangle are red now on the packet tracer. Once I do no, I type no shutdown, as you can see they are turning green and orange, because still the configuration hasn't finished yet. So the router, or the communication between the switch and the router, it's not finished yet, but it's on right now. Now let's tell the switch about the VLAN. So I will just say interface Giga Ethernet 0/0, and then I will give it point 20, which is VLAN 20. Now we are configuring the VLAN 20, so I will just say encapsulation .1q is 20, and this is the protocol that it will be used for the traffic on VLAN 20. We'll give it the IP address. So the IP address of VLAN 20 will be 192.168.20.1, and this is the subnet mask. This, you build up the subnets before you do this, and you configure the subnets for each VLAN, and you configure the IP addresses, but this is out of the scope of this video. maybe there will be another video about how to do subnetting, but at least now this is the network IP address I'm using. I'm just using the simple one without any other configuration. Now I finished this one. We need to do it for VLAN 40 and VLAN 80. So I will just say interface, same interface, but I will give it .40. This is a sub interface of the interface Giga Ethernet 0/0, which means I'm carrying the traffic on .40, which means it's VLAN 40. Also, I will just say encapsulation is VLAN 40. This is the protocol to be used, and IP address is 192.168.40.1. Subnet mask is the same, and I will exit. Now next one will be VLAN 80, so I will just give it a sub interface on the same Giga Ethernet 0/0, and I will just say .80 encapsulation .1q and VLAN 80. The IP address of this one will be 192.168.80.1, and then subnet mask and exit. Next will be exclusion of some IP addresses. Let's say you need to set up printer switches IP addresses for a static IP address for some devices like the printer. So I'm going to tell the router to exclude a few IP addresses from being assigned to computers. I'll tell the router do not assign these IP addresses to any other machine, because I will use them later on manually to assign statically to other devices, such as printer. You need to assign a static IP to the printer, because you need to configure the printer not to change the IP address, not to change at all, so you can print all the time from it and you don't have any problem. So in this part I will just say IP DHCP and then exclude addresses, and I will just say exclude the address from VLAN 20 from number 1 till number 10. So the first 10 IP addresses will not be used in being assigned to other devices. I will do the same for VLAN 40, and I will do the same for VLAN 80. So I excluded the first 10 IP addresses in each VLAN. Alright, now we need to configure the pool of the VLANs itself. So I will just say, I will just type DHCP pool, and I will give it a name VR, and this HR, and this HR is VLAN 20. This is just a name, so I can, when I go back later on to look at these configuration files, I will understand what is this pool about. Now the network address of this one will be 192.168.20.0. This is the network address, not the IP address. And then the default router will be 192.168.20.1, and the DNS server I will just use a public one, which is Google, and I will exit. And I will do the same for VLAN 40. So I will just say DHCP pool, and I will name it admin, and this is VLAN, you just use capital VLAN 40. The network address is 192.168.40.0, and default router will be 1, and DNS will be the same public DNS for Google. Also, the last pool will be the DHCP pool, It's called IT and it's VLAN 80. As I said, this is just a name. Network address is 192.168.80.0, 255.255.255.0. Default router is 192.168.80.1 and DNS is 8.8.8.8 and exit. Now I finished all the configuration on the router and I'm told the router to give IP addresses to the VLANs connected to the switch, connected to the computers. Now what we need to do on the next step is configure the PCs. So if I go to the PC and let me get you the window of the configuration itself. So here, as if you are on a Windows machine or any other operating system, I will configure the IP addresses. So I'm getting into the network and I will say it's DHCP. Now on this one, we are on the configuration of HR1. It's set on static. There is no IP address on this one. Once I press DHCP, it will request an IP address from the router and it will take IP address from the VLAN configured on that port. So the VLAN on this one is 192.168.20.11. As you can see, it's .11 because the first 10 IP address we've excluded from the router. And I told the router do not assign the first 10 IP addresses to any device. So this one got IP address .11. After this one, I will jump to the next one, which is HR number 2. And now I will go into the IP configuration of the network. I will set it to DHCP. And as you can see, it's the same .20.12. It got the next available IP address. The default gateway is .20.1 and the DNS server is 8.8.8.8 as we configured in the router. Now let's jump to number 3, which is PC admin, and let's get the configuration on the screen. So I will go to the IP, it's at the desktop IP configuration. So this one is admin 1, which is different VLAN, which is VLAN 40. So I should expect here, once I press on DHCP, to see .40.11. As you can see, it's .40.11, default gateway .40.1, and the DNS server is the same. So this is a different network, although all computers are connected to the same switch, but they are getting different IP addresses. Now let's jump to switch number 2, and I'm going now to PC admin number 2. So this is the setting of the computer, and let's set up the network to take IP address from the router. And as you can see here, it's .40.12, next available IP address. So this is correct configuration now. Now let's jump into the last one, which is PC IT. And this is, as you can remember, it's on VLAN number 80. So it should get a complete different IP address from the rest. So if we go to desktop IP configuration, set it to DHCP, and now it's .80.11. So as you can see now, the computers are connected to the switch, but each one is getting a different IP address according to the configuration we set for each VLAN. So as you can see here, these are the configuration, and all computers now are connected to the switch, and they are getting different IP address from different subnets, different VLANs, and it's all connected from the router, and they are all getting the IP addresses from the router. This is how you divide your network into VLANs and secure your network and get computers to communicate with each other inside the VLAN but cannot communicate with other VLANs. Thank you for watching and wait for more videos.